Ever since its release in 1989, Disney's The Little Mermaid has constantly been considered a feminist nightmare. Critics and multiple popular opinions claim that the movie teaches young girls how it is okay for them to give up everything in their life for a guy they haven't even properly met, thereby reinforcing negative pre-existing values prevalent in the society. In other words, the claims discuss how the protagonist Ariel changes herself for a man, sacrifices her voice for a man, and finally puts her life as well as that of her family in danger for the same man, and she doesn't even know him. And yes, they make sense to a certain extent. Yet, time and again, there are women watching Ariel's story and falling in love with it. Perhaps then there is something positive in the movie after all? Hello everyone, this is Ritika. Welcome to my very first YouTube video where I take a shot at the Disney Renaissance film, The Little Mermaid. To begin with, let's take a look at everything we know about Ariel before she sees Eric playing his flute on the ship. At the beginning of the film, she was supposed to be introduced to us in a coming-of-age ceremony. However, when the ceremony actually happens, she is nowhere near her designated place. Instead, she is found exploring an abandoned and wrecked ship somewhere in the deep ocean. Her adventurous nature reflects itself in these actions, for she would rather be out doing this than being the center of attraction in a gala. She is also in love with the human world and everything that represents it, so much so that she almost loses her life while acquiring a fork. I repeat, a fork. It's just a small version of her father's trident, but she does it nonetheless. Not to forget the huge collection she already has in her ghetto of all the things that she has taken up from shipwrecks. It appears then that even before noticing Eric, or rather saving him I guess, she is aware of how much she wants more than what the sea can provide her with. She is constantly urged by the other characters in the film to realize how life is better down where it's wetter, that is, under the sea. She's asked by her family and friends and even random courtiers to accept the world she's born into. A typical Disney princess plotline. But unlike Cinderella, Snow White, or even Sleeping Beauty, her predecessors in the princess line, she cannot accept herself doing that. She wants to explore the world, and so, defying the king's orders, she constantly goes to the surface of the sea to marvel at the human world. Not to forget the song. Her song, the one that she sings right before she sees Eric's ship swimming away in the ocean. Part of that world? This song is all about curiosity and learning and freedom and independence. All great things that young girls and boys should be taught. Oliver Lindman calls it her curiosity song. I'm not even going to talk about how different and much more enriching this song is when compared to those of the princesses before her. I mean, if you watch the movies, you'll know. Now here's the other thing, however. Despite all of this, people often say that she gave up her fins and her voice for Eric. Granted, yes, a reprised version of part of that world appears right when she meets him, which is then titled Part of Your World, but it still does not take away from the ideas of learning and independence that her original song entails. In fact, if you watch the film, you'll notice that meeting Eric was not the catalyst that makes her seek Ursula. After she saves him, there's a brief amount of time when she's happy being just where she is. It doesn't matter to her if he's on the surface and she's under the sea. The fact that she has love in her heart is enough for her. It is only when her father destroys her entire collection of human things that she loses it. That is the breaking point in her life. That is when she goes to seek Ursula. To add to that, it is not even Ariel herself who comes up with the idea of becoming a human. It is something that Ursula puts in her mind. Similarly, it is Ursula who makes it all about falling in love with Eric and marrying him. She is the one who helps transform Ariel's dream of living on land to a life with Prince Eric. Eric never had the power to turn Ariel into a human, not until Ursula assigned that part to him. That too, without his knowledge. Moreover, it is also Ursula who makes her believe that her voice isn't necessary. And yet, even when she is in the human world, Ariel doesn't spend her time falling all over Eric, trying to use her body language the way Ursula suggested to trap him into falling in love with her. Something she probably should have done because, well, her life depends on it. Instead, she spends her time exploring the world she has always wanted to be a part of. Long story short, although Eric is one of the reasons why Ariel ends up becoming a human, he's not the main one. If anything, she had wanted to get out of her family home and forge her own identity even before the movie began. We see this in her rebellious and adventurous streak playing itself from the moment she is introduced to us. In fact, had it not been for Ursula, Eric might have continued to be a side character in this story and not one to which her happy ending was linked. In that sense, then, The Little Mermaid is not a romance at all. Instead, it is about Ariel wanting to be a part of a world where she is not restricted to a life under the sea. This is not to say that she was helpless in her original life. On the contrary, her voice always held an extreme power. It was not only praised for its beauty but could also be used as a payment in her deal with Ursula. That the sea witch only took what was extremely important and magical for payments only proves how powerful her voice actually was. Moreover, even in her life on land, it is not until she has regained that part of her being, her voice, that she is able to win Eric's heart. It is never her appearance that Eric falls in love with. It has always been her voice. Losing her voice then was almost the most extreme measure she could have taken to get the life she wants. Gaining it back is perhaps a symbol of finally having herself heard, which in a way is something that she constantly felt with Eric even when she didn't have an actual voice, as compared to when she lived under the sea. In her earlier life, everyone spoke over her, trying to convince her that her curiosity is not worth fighting for and that she should be happy where she was. Ariel, in that way, consistently stands up for what she believes in and doesn't sway from following her dreams. Yes, the measures she takes are a little extreme, but that just shows how much she's ready to give up to have what she wants. Isn't that a good thing in a way? I'll also point out here as a side note that this is the first Disney princess movie in which the princess does the rescuing. I mean, sure, Eric also saves her, but she does a lot of that work as well. This is also the first Disney movie to portray a rebellious and adventurous princess, by the way, who has comparatively more agency than her predecessors. To sum up though, is Ariel flawed? Yes, but that is what makes her all the more real. She is certainly motivated by love in her movie, but she is also heavily influenced by her deep-seated curiosity and fascination with the humans and their world. This much is evident from the moment we meet her, much before she even lays her eyes on the prince. Her song, part of that world, actually shows how much she may be physically restrained, but her spirit is not passive at all. And although her father is a domineering figure who dismisses her wishes every now and then, there is a very high chance that he would have reacted differently had her safety not been on the line. That this viewpoint also portrays King Triton as the villain is well acknowledged by Disney, which is perhaps why it is later revealed in the prequel that it is because of the death of Ariel's mother at the hands of the humans that he has forbidden any trip to the surface. All the same though, the fact remains that all she wants is something more out of her life than what she's given. And there's nothing unfeminist about wanting more, is there? She seeks knowledge and yearns to learn new things. So many of us are always told to dream bigger, and she does exactly that. She just wants these emotions to be acknowledged and heard. Sure, she made a bad bargain, she ran away from home, she constantly argued with her father instead of trying to understand his point of view. I'm not condoning any of that, but still, at least she took charge of her own life. When has any of this ever been unfeminist? No one likes to be called naive, especially by the people they love. No one likes to have their one comfort spot destroyed. Why is it such a huge deal when she reacts poorly to it then? So then, if you have kids around the house who are in love with Ariel or who want to live her story, I hope you make sure to remind them that it is not all about giving everything up for a man. It is about so much more than that. Sure, the marriage arc at the end seems to suggest that this is what it's all about, but does that one scene really nullify everything we have witnessed of her in the past? Why do we grant that one scene with a man that much power over all the others? Not that there's anything wrong in actively seeking love too, of course. Seeking love doesn't make one unfeminist either, because really, it is always okay to want and have company. What is unfeminist, however, is telling people they can't do something without a valid explanation. All in all, then, the moral of the film is to fight for what you love, be it a person, a thing, or, well, whatever. It's about how, if you're unhappy with your situation and have the means to do something about it, then you must. And once again, I'm not condoning any of her actions, or, well, most of her actions anyway, because indeed, a lot of what she does is wrong, and she is, despite everything, a self centered 16-year-old. But then, what 16-year-old isn't, eh? And well, that's it from me today. This is Ritika Chopra. Thank you so much for watching my very first YouTube video. I hope to be able to make more of them in the future. And if you have any thoughts, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Thank you and see you again soon.